right here. The whole action is here. And at this point, this is the Accra Sports Stadium, as you can see in the background. And all the action is at the entrance right now, where the delegates are all rushing in to get a glimpse of everything that is happening. Well, the NDC is trying to get its executives. They are going to vote for them today. The national chairmanship position, the general secretary, the deputy general secretary, national organizer, deputy national organizer, NEC officials. They will also have their youth. They've elected them already, and it's problematic right now. The women's organizer position, the Nasara, amongst others. All these are going to be elected today. Over 81 aspirants trying to vie for these 14 positions, already 4 gone. So we have a number to go today. And like we said, from 8 a.m. to the last election results are declared, we are your election headquarters. This is Joy News. We bring you all the action. A while ago, Samson, we saw the General Secretary, the current General Secretary, Johnson Asiedu Nketia, enter. And you should see the pomp and pageantry, the way delegates and party supporters welcomed him into the Accra Sports Stadium. Quite surprising, but the general himself, all clad in his batakari with all the many colors that people think has the magic for him. We'll see if that particular batakari will actually do the magic for today. He's vying for the national chairman position. We've seen him now, but we're yet to see who is the current incumbent, the incumbent chairman of the NDC, also walk in. But that's the situation now. My colleague, Blessed Soga, is also in our makeshift studio, right there at the center of the Accra Sports Stadium. We'll be crossing over to him shortly, and whilst Ben also takes over from you, Samson, then we take over the action. We are told that at 11 it was supposed to start, but time check, it's 12. We are hoping that it will happen anytime soon. We are expecting the former president, John Dramani Mahama, also walk in. At the high stage, or the stage I should say, the National Council of Elders, most of them are seated as we speak. And we have all the feed for you. This is your election headquarters, live on the Joy News channel, on Joy 99.7 FM, myjoyonline.com, and all our social media platforms. And I know that my colleague Blessed Soga is on standby with a number of his guests also in the stadium. But I must talk about the number of security presence, or the security presence that we have at the Accra Sports Stadium. In fact, I don't know if you can see any of the security personnel behind me, but the ones I can see ahead of me are fully clothed, ready for combat. In fact, action, armed to the teeth, helmets, all the shin guards, amongst others. They are fully clothed for all the action because of what we saw in Cape Coast during the youth and women's organizer elections. So this is the situation. Security personnel, about 1,000 of them, all deployed to every nook and cranny of the Accra Sports Stadium, all covered. So if my colleague is ready, Ben, if you are ready, or my colleague Blessed Soga is ready, I'll cross over to our makeshift studio in the main auditorium, or the stadium I should say. Then Blessed can take over the conversation. Ben and Blessed, I hand over to you.
So this is your election headquarters, and we are here at the Accra Sports Stadium. This is our special coverage of the 10th National Delegates Congress of the Opposition National Democratic Congress. It's set to be a very long day today, knowing that there are 14 different positions up for grab in terms of the national executive portfolios of the opposition party. And yet what you have happening is that we have close to 80 individuals slugging it out for this limited number of positions within the party. Just last week, we had the youth and women's wing election. So what happened last week was that in Winneba, we had the Youth Congress and the Women's Congress. We saw the elections of Hannah Louisa Bisio as the women's organizer for the NDC. For the youth position, it went out to Giorgio Pariado, but as we speak now, that is under some level of a contest. And I need to indicate that the process is leading to the 10th National Delegates Congress of the NDC hasn't been that smooth. It's been filled with a lot of rivalry and competition as well. But some of the leading members of the MPP at the NDC tell us that it's part of the reorganization process of the party, and that once the exercise is complete, what we will have is a solid, unified party which is working with a broader theme of rallying to win victory come 2024. So we are set to see what may happen at the end of the day. Just a while ago, we had the presence of the former president, John Dramani Mahama. He is present together with the 2020 running mate of the party, Professor Jane Nana Opoku. They are right here in the Accra Sports Stadium, which means that all is set, according to sources, for the event to take off. We'll be giving you a feel of what's happening here in the stadium, but there's a need for us to also engage some of the delegates and members of parliament who are participating in the process today. I have the Sagnerigu MP, Alhaji ABF Hussaini. He's joining us here. He's also a delegate, so I will be seeking a lot more from him, knowing that this contest is not going to be easy. It's a really charged atmosphere here, but Alhaji, welcome to our makeshift studio. You're live on Joy News, and congratulations to your party as well. And if you could just speak into the microphone for me, what's your impression? Yeah, what's your impression of the exercise so far, the 10th National Delegates Congress of the NDC?
Let me say this is a good morning to all your viewers and to all the good people of this country. Today is a very important historic event in the annals of this country's democratic journey. And I want to say without any iota of hesitation that the NDC will today, by the grace of the Almighty Allah, send a signal to this country that it stands in readiness to assume power after the elections of December 7, 2024, to bring back President Mahama to continue the good work there. And I'm telling you this on the certainty that we are going to emerge from this Congress stronger, more unified, more focused, more visionary, and more determined to ensure that we bring smiles back on the faces of the depressed Ghanaians, the long-suffering Ghanaians who are having to contend with excruciating hardship and poverty under the hopelessly uninspiring leadership of Nana Akufo-Addo.
And when you say that, many say that's an admission of the fact that all is not well with the NDC as we speak.
I can tell you without any other, all is very, very well with the NDC. You can always do with greater unity, even if you are unified. I've always said it in like the Gombe say, even if you are handsome, you still need to buff. So you don't say because you are handsome, you won't buff again. You get ugly. So it is important that even with the state of unity that we have, we are gunning for greater unity. And I can tell you, irrespective of the outcome of the various positions today, the NDC will be more focused, more united, more monolithic as an entity, focused on taking power and rescuing our people from the depreciating hardship that they have been suffering.
You are a man filled with a lot of proverbial wisdom.
Yes.
What proverb best describes today's contest in your view?
You know, the background is that, like I said,
yeah,
the MPP is like a house that has fallen, that has collapsed. And when the house has collapsed, you don't ask whether the roof is still standing.
How about your own house, the NDC?
I can tell you solid. I can tell you the NDC is a solid monolithic entity. And we will demonstrate it here today. You will see that after the race has ended, all the aspirants are going to get together and send a clear message to this country that we are solid, ready, united, and guided by the vision of our leader, His Excellency President Mahama, to go for the ultimate.
Okay.
So there will be no iota of doubt left in anybody's mind that the NDC is ready for power after today's Congress.
Per the rules, are you as members of parliament allowed to go all out for a candidate who is contesting this race?
No, nothing stops anybody.
Yeah.
But as leaders of the party, we have to especially make sure that the campaign is decorous and that we create a climate and an atmosphere that after whoever has won, it's easier for us to mend fences and bring people together. So nothing stops you by law, but I'm saying about practice and conduct. And by the burden of leadership imposed on you, you ought to lead the call by our leadership for civil campaign.
Alhaji, I'm asking the question because we've heard from, for instance, the minority chief whip He's spoken to us. He says, when it comes to the chairmanship position race, all you have is 9 members of parliament declaring support for the incumbent chairperson, Mr. Samuel Ofosu Ampofo. And then the rest of you are joining hands to support Johnson Asiedu Nketia, who served your party for 17 years as the General Secretary. Are you able to confirm or deny this claim?
I don't want to get caught up in the assertion somebody has made. It's his individual opinion he has expressed based on what he has gathered. I am a member of the caucus. I certainly have my views and opinions on the race and various positions on the matter. Okay? So I don't want to begrudge anybody. Everybody has a right to make his opinions heard. And I'm not about to contest anybody's opinions. All that I'm saying is that
what do you know?
Should be civil.
What do you know? Are you part of the 9?
I just know that I am a dedicated, committed member of the NDC who will support any of the aspirants and who, at the end of the game, all of us are enjoined to build consensus and come together and function as a monolithic unit. So I am not about to declare where I stand on this matter. I think that I am one of the, in fact, I am the spokesperson for the NDC in Parliament, being the ranking member on communications. And so I have a bounden duty to work for the sanity of the party. And if where there are the potentials to inflame parties and others, we have the duty.
Do you feel, and that's what I'm interested in, do you feel that's what's happening within your political party as we speak?
Oh, it's a healthy burst of democracy. Democracy enjoys the freedom of anybody to prefer his opinions and to make a choice according to his own preferences. So that is democracy. But in doing so, we just have to be very civil, decorous, respectful, so that at the end of the day, like I said, it's easier for us to come back and work together as members of the same party with a common vision to oust this hopelessly incompetent and uninspiring MPP government of Nana Akufo-Addo and bring back President Mahama. So, as a leader, I think that I have a duty to ensure that that climate of civility and reconciliatory atmosphere is created, so that we don't have that difficulty.
Alaji, there are scores of Ghanaians watching us or joining us as we speak. What would you want them to know about the NDC?
Look, fortunately for us, Ghanaians have had an opportunity to compare our records. The MPP has been in power for six years now. And God willing, by the end of their tenure in 2024, would have had a solid 8 years for them. And we'll compare their 8 years record with the 8-year record of the NDC. And I'm telling you that there's no iota of doubt. Ghanaians will be completely unanimous.
Is this all about the NPP for you?
Come again?
Is this all about the NPP for you?
It's not just about the NPP. It's also about the NDC. What the NDC under his almighty be pleased with him, President Mills, in 2009. What he did up to almost the end of his tenure. And where President Mahama took off up to the end of 2017. My brother, let's take the economy. Look, when President Mahama was exiting office on January 7th, 2017, the MPP inherited a relatively more stable economy. Look, the inflation rate was 15%. The CD to the dollar was 4 CDs to a dollar. Okay? The inflation, debt to GDP, let me just give you the total debt.
Right.
President Mahama left 120 billion Ghana cedis. Okay? Now come back today. Today, what is the inflationary rate? 50.something%. The highest you can ever remember in any time under the aegis of the Fourth Republic. Okay? Today, the total indebtedness is really over 500 billion Ghana cedis. You are talking about from 120 to over 500
So what's the point, really?
So it tells you that the MPP has catastrophically mismanaged the economy.
All right.
To the point that, my brother, you and I, and the multitude of Ghanaians are the living witnesses to this. So today, even the MPP themselves are unanimous that the finance minister and the economic management team who presided over the mess must all go. Even them. Never in the annals of our country.
So how do you fix that into the context of what's happening today?
So we are saying that this Congress will elect the leaders who are going to lead us to that victory. Leaders who are going to team up with the flag bearer we elect by his grace, by the grace of the Almighty President Dramani Mahama, to lead us not only to restore some hope, but to change the course of the country, to inject more vim and dynamism into the economy, to begin to do more, what do I call it, import substitution industries. That would stop the over-reliance on imports, so that we can save the city. I have been telling you that even under President Mama, you could see that we started, when you got the pharmaceutical industry, to give them credit to produce. We started the Commander Sugar Factory to cut down on sugar imports.
Right.
I can give you a litany. At Tuabu Gas, we were a net importer of liquefied petroleum gas.
Right.
Now we are an exporter. So I can give you many examples that the NDC under His Excellency President Mama initiated for us to get that self-sufficiency and cut down on imports.
I'm
but
grateful.
this government has been so bankrupt, so visionless, so clueless, and indeed
All
so
right.
wicked that you can see what they have imposed on Ghanaians today.
Okay then, and Alhaji, the day is just starting. I'm sure that we'll reconnect here on the election headquarters to obviously analyze what the outcome of the election will be. I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. Just hold on for us briefly. Let's also bring in your colleague in Parliament.
So I want to take the opportunity
yes,
to thank you
all
and
right.
to say that Ghanaians must not lose hope. Hope is on the horizon. The NDC and His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama are coming, and they will rescue them from this hopelessly uninspiring government.
And I'm grateful.
The future is bright.
Alhaji Abia Fuseni, thank you for joining us here. And we're still watching and bringing you the very latest that you need to know about the 10th National Delegates Congress of the Opposition National Democratic Congress. For those of you who are watching us on the Joy News channel, we need to tell you that the program is underway. Started a couple of minutes ago, quite delayed. That's not what we're expecting, but all the same, we'll bring you up to speed on what's happening. Former President John Dramani Mahama, as we indicated, just arrived. We have other delegates here, including the Honorable Rashid Purple. It's such a pleasure to see you again. It's been a long while, sir.
Thank you, my brother.
Welcome. You have been monitoring the process. You've been there when it all started way back in 1992, obviously. So you've been around and you've seen it all. Would you say that the NDC is better placed now and more unified going into the next general elections?
Yeah, on and on as we grew, the NDC has become a popular party, has become a mass party. It's now convincing Ghanaians that it is capable of leading Ghana into all kinds of successes because we have the track record for it. And so this Congress is reminding us of that commitment to unite Ghanaians behind progress and to make sure that we achieve the best for the people, especially at this very critical time when everything seems to be going out of gear. So we are here reminding ourselves about, of our duty, our pleasant duty of serving the people of Ghana and ensuring that the best is good for Ghana.
I need to bring this up. Some say you had the power to rein in the kind of acrimony. You had the influence and the ear of those going into the contest today to try and at least speak to them about how rancorous the campaign was. Do you feel that that has a potential to disintegrate your party and to crack the party ahead of the election?
No, we have a track record of a situation where we contest elections and losers come back to support the party in any way they can. And because of this track record, we are sure that we are heading for a situation where we will select the best candidates. Those who would not win, as usual, will come back to support the winners because we have a committed objective of winning 2024 elections, which is why we are doing all this. And because we have an objective, a common objective, which is also the objectives of Ghanaians, to change the present circumstances and to bring about hope to Ghana. We are all working towards it, and anybody who doesn't achieve an objective here will be a narrow objective they want to achieve. Will give in to the bigger objective of working to bring Ghana, forward into glamour.
In your view, has the party been this tested? Have you been this tested as a political party in terms of the kind of competition we're seeing this time round?
Well, we have always been tested, except that in this one, it's a new regime altogether, a new regime of tests, a new circumstance in which two individuals, for example, in the party who have held very big positions are contesting against each other, with each of them having a very big following. And so you have, one of the biggest challenges here, but I believe that it's as usual. All the others, people came out hoping to win and didn't win. Whether they are in the party or not, whether they had been good, they held very big positions in the party or not, individually, they are party people, they are individuals who are contesting. At the end of this, we would have seen who has won, and I believe that at the end of it all, it will resemble everything that has ever happened.
Let's talk about the expectations. What are you expecting from this new crop of leaders that will be elected at the end of the Congress?
We expect a more determined approach, a more forthright approach, an exigency, a situation where we know that Ghana is at a terrible stage of of bad governance, corruption, of failure in economy, and it should dawn on them that because of that, they are given the mandate to relieve Ghanaians of the pain we are going through. And so, because they should also know the circumstances Ghanaians are facing, it should tell them that this is a different type of election altogether. Ghanaians expect a lot from NDC, and NDC expects so much from them than we will expect from any other leadership in the past. So it's a critical moment for us, and want to make sure in the end Ghanaians are not disappointed. We take Ghana to the next stage of development, and that at the conclusive end of it all, NDC, MPP, we all be happy that this thing has happened, that a transition has occurred, and that a new life has begun for Ghanaians. We are not going to stop. We are not going to immediately change the circumstance in which in 30 years we are still going to be paid debts. What we will change is the ability for us to circumvent the challenges we are meeting, to control the situation and to control an economy, to make sure we have an economy that can strive enough to achieve the best for Ghana, so that in the end we will surmount the challenge, the big challenge.
I put the question to your colleague earlier.
Yes.
As to whether or not in Parliament you're declaring en masse your support for one of the candidates. Because a leading member of your caucus in Parliament has come out to state clearly that some of you have decided, over 130 of you have decided to support the General Secretary to take the position as the chairperson of the NDC. Are these reports factual?
Well, I can see that we have support of both parties across board. You have the General Secretary, you have the chairman, and you have individuals supporting them as and when they like. What we have not done is to come together to say we support this person. And I think it's the best thing not to communicate that. We are all coming together to support one person or the other. It's important because for a political party of this stature and for members of parliament who have attained high level of respectability, it's important for us to go and vote rather than to demonstrate support from outside.
Today's arrangement is not making it possible for us to have your party foot soldiers here in the stadium, which means that a lot more of them will be watching us back at home. What message would you want to leave with our viewers and by extension the grassroots of the NDC who are monitoring the conversation now?
Well, what I will say is that your party, the NDC, our party, is a party with the umbrella covering Ghana. It's a party that has brought development to all over the country. We have built schools, we have built hospitals, we have done so much. We have built universities, you can't count them. Extend electricity to places where there was no light. It is a party that symbolizes the development of Ghana. We are determined to make sure we continue that trend. We are determined to make sure the party is for everybody. We do not have situations where a group of people will hijack the central core of the party as their own. It is a party for all of us. We want to demonstrate it here by selecting the party executives that can work to attain victory for us. We are looking for victory not because of the need, the desire just for victory.
Right.
It is because of the desire to make Ghana a better Ghana. And we are aimed at it. So you here at home, listening to us here, we are working for you, but we are working for Ghana. Go in your numbers, meet the people you can meet, talk to them, let them know NDC is coming back, and we are coming back determined in whatever effort we can to make change the circumstances of Ghanaians.
And I'm grateful that you've been able to spend some time
much.
Here. And we hope to see you once more in studio.
Right,
the Honorable Rashid Koku joining us here. And this is your election headquarters. Don't forget that we're still keeping our eyes on the events unfolding here at the Accra Sports Stadium for you. We're getting every bit of the moment, trying as much as possible to get a sense of what's happening before the contest itself begins. It's going to be a very long night. We're expecting that, of course, at the end of the day, the NDC will fill its vacant 14 portfolios that will serve as the national executives for the party. Let's quickly wrap up before we get to the podium to hear what it is that the leading members of the NDC would have to tell us. But I want to welcome two gentlemen. We have the Honorable James Agalga, former Deputy Interior Minister, joining us. He's also an MP, so he'll be expressing his views. He's a delegate. I don't know if he'll be willing to put out his candidate that he prefers to vote for. We'll try and test that. Of course, Victor Kojoga, who is a member of the legal team of the NDC. He was part of the team that delivered, if I should say, the victory for the NDC in terms of the contest, some of the disputed seats for the party. So we'll talk all about that. But I want to start off with James Agalga. It's been a while. We've not heard from you in a long while. If you could just speak into the microphone for me. How are you feeling now, knowing that all is set, and at the end of the day, you will have your substantive national executives for the NDC?
Well, I am in a happy mood, let me put it that way, because it is very clear that the successful conduct of our National Congress would mean that we effectively would have finished with the preparation of the party, the reorganization of the party, besides the election of the presidential candidate and parliamentary candidates, in readiness to recapture political power from the MPP, which has visited a lot of harm. I mean, look at the economic meltdown, look at the difficulties we're all going through as a people. So that gives me a certain, sense of joy that after all, the end is in sight for the incompetence and the mismanagement that the Akufo-Addo-led administration has unleashed on the people of Ghana. So that gives me a lot of happiness.
Because we have a very limited time, let me take a brief comment also from lawyer Kojoga Daudu. What's your expectation going into the contest for today? You are not one of the aspirants, but you have your preferred candidates, correct?
No, let me say congratulations, Bless. You are doing a good job.
Thank you.
And in our way we say, away the home, Yadra. It means Yadra means bless. Now, Bless, you see, even the fact that I just got to the environs of the stadium and entering, there's some sense of joy, elation, that I just feel like this is the walk for Victory 2020, a walk to the Jubilee.
Oh, really?
House. Yes.
You're confident about that?
Very confident. Not because we say things are difficult, but you will see that there is a sense, there is an air blowing, that the people are determined that this is what we want.
But some say that some of your colleagues are drawing you back. For instance, there are people who are already filing injunctions. I'm sure you've heard of that.
Well, it happens in every society. It happens. It's only in the cemetery that there is always absolute peace. It's only in the cemetery.
But as a legal team, have you taken delivery of what the decision of the court?
Oh yes, we've been taking and we've been working on it. Even as at yesterday, the last injunction, we had to go to court and we had to dismiss the whole action. The whole action has been dismissed.
Oh really?
Yes.
Which of them is that?
John Amankra, the former Eastern Regional Chairman, versus the party. We went and there was some understanding and they even withdrew the whole writ. It was only in the evening I was seeing something on the social media, but it has not been brought to our attention yet. But bless, it tells you there is some sense of unity among the people. There may be one or two things that you hear is being embellished by people, but once you come in here, yes, you may see that there's a little differences. That does not mean that we are not determined people. That does not mean that we don't know where we are going. Everybody, all and sundry in this country, members of the NDC, and even the populists are looking at us.
So how about the youth organizer position, which is also being disputed? How are you resolving that one with regard to the youth organizer position?
Yeah, we got the youth organizer. The impression I get from reading it is that they are injuncting the National Youth Organizer-elect from holding himself as National Youth Organizer and from being sworn into office. It has nothing to do with this Congress.
Not this
so
Congress.
Yes,
okay.
It has nothing to do with it.
So just that he may not be sworn in.
Yes, that is when they are served. Okay. The people who swear in them, if they are served.
All right.
As we speak now, I don't have any document. I don't think the constitutional or legal team also have anything. Okay. But I would say that I'm happy with the organization, and I am sure that Ghanaians are looking up to us to provide an alternate. As an alternative.
And indeed, the event is just starting, but I want to give a few seconds to the Honorable James Agaga to also make your concluding remarks. While you do that as well, just a brief comment on what we've heard from the President. The President has been talking about some happenings in Burkina Faso and our northern borders. I'm sure you've heard of that as well. How concerned are you as a member of the
it's very obvious. The President was extremely reckless. I mean, when he made those pronouncements in Washington, I suppose, I've seen viral videos of him speaking to the Secretary of State, Antony Blinken of the United States. And I thought that the statements he made were just too reckless and uncalled for. Look, Burkina Faso is our neighbor. They have been grappling with terrorist attacks for some time now. The least Ghana can do is to lend support to the government of Burkina Faso as our northern neighbor. Interestingly, Burkina Faso belongs to the Accra Initiative, which was launched by President Akufo-Addo himself. I mean, it is touted as one of his achievements. I mean, so far as security management is concerned. Now you go and say such damaging words about the Burkinabés. Do you expect them to continue to share intelligence with us and collaborate with us in the fight against terrorism? So he's created a diplomatic row and must take urgent steps to placate the Burkinabe regime so that we can continue to work together in the interest of dealing with the terror threat up north.
And of course, it's just getting started, so I will get back into our makeshift studio just to get you more analysis on this from the Honorable James Agaga and Victor Kojogan Adaudu. But I'm grateful, gentlemen, that you're joining us. Let's take some of the speeches that are being delivered now. We'll cross over and return with more on this. This is your election headquarters. Stay on the Joy News channel.
About to go. Well, there you have it, live from the Accra Sports Stadium, where all the action is actually happening. 10,936 delegates, and they have a pool of 81 of those vying for positions to fill 14 slots in the National Democratic Congress. It is the Congress of the party. The question is, how are things going to pan out? How are things going to pan out? Anyway, so before we go back to the Accra Sports Stadium where all the action is happening and where we're going to be finding out, we know that former President John Dramani Mahama is there. We just heard from Rashid Pelpo, Member of Parliament for West Central. We know that Jane Nano Pukwajaman, among others, stalwarts in the NDC, are on ground. We will intermittently be interacting with them to give you a bird's eye view of what to expect ahead of today as voting commences. But joining me in the studio right here, we all call him the Bull. He actually is former Deputy General Secretary of the NDC. He also was Communications Director during the tenure of President John Evans Fifi Atta Mills. May his soul rest in peace. Koku, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Benjamin.
Put it there. Maybe your initial thoughts on everything happening. We can start from the National Youth Delegates Congress, so to speak, and then the women's organizer role as well, and what happened before we even get into this one.
Yeah.
Quick take on the NDC now. What do you see?
Well, Benjamin, I mean, good afternoon and hello to your viewers. The NDC now, certainly we are in the middle of a certain ocean. How we swim ashore or how we, cross the tempestuous aspect of the turbulence is what will determine whether the ship shall sink as deep as the Titanic sank and never be recovered, or we can save the ship. And for me, there's this saying that I've always held on to, that when the ship is sinking, forget about the captain's wife and think about the sinking ship.
When the ship is sinking,
forget about the captain's wife. Think about the sinking ship. Once you save the ship, the captain's wife will be saved.
Who's the captain's wife here?
Well, it's proverbial talk.
Right.
That when the ship is sinking and there's an iceberg right there, you can see it. You don't go looking for the captain's wife to save the captain's wife. At that time, let the captain's wife maybe try and save herself. Let's save the ship. Then the captain's wife will also be saved. Bang. So there we are, National Democratic Congress. This morning, as I would normally do, I drove past the Accra Sports Stadium. I was there between 7:15 a.m. Just to be sure that when I come into the studio, I can speak to specifics. And by the time I got in there, the Ghana police seemed to be lining up.
Right.
Lining up very well.
So there was a heavy police presence already.
Right from, by 7:15, right from the Osu Cemetery end. I entered through the Osu Cemetery end. They allowed me, then drove past the frontage of the stadium, then did it up to the main gate, then exited through Independence Square, and just, as we say in the military parlance, did a proper recce.
Right.
And so what I'm seeing now in terms of a certain high level of sobriety doesn't surprise me. So basically, I think this is how we expected it to be, considering what happened at the Youth Congress and Women's Congress a week ago. And let me just reel back into Youth Women's Congress. For Hanabisiu, this will be the first time any woman has won it back-to-back.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Hanabisiu.
Dr. Haluiza Hanabisiu, because when we began the whole reorganization process after the defeat in 2000, the first women organizer was Frances Esiam. Then
who later left
yeah.
the party.
Then we gave it to Antema Benyuadu. May her soul rest in peace.
And she was a very strong one.
Yeah. So that's how we came in 2008.
Bringing up the caucus in the central region and all of that.
And of course, President Mills made her regional minister when victory walked his way. Then Anita D'Souza got it. Then Hajia Joyce, Mahama, then Hanabisiu. For the youth, Haruna had done it back to back already. He too got it. He got it in Pram Pram, then got it in Bolgatanga again. And then, so that's the history of the Youth and Women's Congress. As it is, we are hearing that the youth in particular has been injuncted. And so, as would have been the norm, so the Judge Opariado may, if the legal suit stands, may not be sworn in after today's
I mean, per what the court has told us, so Broja Jemfi...
that was the contestant. He contested Opariado.
NSTL Broja Jemfi has claimed that he shouldn't be recognized. That is Pablo, that is George Opariado, shouldn't be recognized because the election was marred by glaring manipulations, as he puts it. And for that reason, that injunction stands. And we'll see how the party handles that situation.
Well, I mean, this is the constitution of the party, Benjamin, and I always work with it. And I recall when I was campaigning 4 years ago, this is all I went around with, because it's important that we understand what the constitution stands for. That's the only way the party can grow. And so and this is the preamble of the constitution. The constitution says that we, the members of the National Democratic Congress, NDC, inter alia, determined to provide a framework of voluntary political association within which Ghanaians from all walks of life and from different traditions can surmount their differences and contribute democratically to the shaping of this new society. Resolved to uphold the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana, approved by the national referendum held on the 28th of April, 1992, and committed to freedom, justice, and accountability. So this is the NDC. This is the preamble. And so it's a voluntary political association, certainly not a cult worshipping any deity. And so nobody sits on top of the political party as a deity. And certainly it's not a cult. It's a voluntary political association.
Are there any individuals who are becoming...
No, I'm just... Well, I mean, we have...
I noticed you at a point when Rashid spoke about these...
Exactly.
There was that rhetoric. You were nodding vigorously. Are there people that are becoming deities in the party?
Well, when it gets to the point when it becomes, a bit asphyxiating, and it's as if you don't...
Suffocating, huh?
Suffocating, exactly. And it's as if when you don't kowtow to or pander to a certain personality, and so that makes you a sinner. It's a bit worrisome, because look, Benjamin, even the founder of the party, when he lived, his wife was contested at the Sunyani Congress. Nobody stopped her, right? She was contested.
She contested at her mills.
She contested at her mills. Right. The party took a decision. The founder was there that day in Sunyani. His wife lost. He congratulated, he moved on.
She went on and formed the NDP.
That is allowed. I mean, that's allowed. I mean, it's a voluntary association. So you can walk out voluntarily if you so wish. But when it's becoming, and I'm sure as we progress, we will speak to specifics, especially the current General Secretary and that tape of his, which has come out.
We'll definitely have a bite.
So damaging.
Right.
When the thing seems to revolve around only one personality. And so even if he, the General Secretary, after 16, 17, 18 years, begins to abuse the Constitution because he's pandering to one personality, for me, I will get worried. And that is why I'll walk into your studios respectfully with the Constitution, so that when we're having the broad discussion, nobody says that Koku is anti-anybody. I'm not anti-anybody. I am pro-NDC when it comes to the political party structure. But then, of course, ultimately, I am pro-Republic of Ghana.
Let me find out from you. I'm sure a lot of people are curious. I mean, under normal circumstances, you probably would have been on the grounds at the Accra Sports Stadium. Just hold for me. At the Accra Sports Stadium. As a bigwig, or should I say former bigwig in the party. Are you still a member of the NDC? I mean, it's a question a lot of us have been asking ourselves, especially after the statements on social media and the letters that came from the NDC signed by Johnson Esiedun Ketia. Tell me, are you a member of the NDC?
I am. Straight to the point, I am.
How is that possible? The party has, so to speak, expelled you, expunged your name from...
I like that. I like your phrasing, so to speak. It is Johnson Asedun Ketia, who today,
No, it's the party.
No, it's not the party, hold on. Because apart from Johnson Asedun Ketia, Abraham Amaleba, who is the director legal,
Right.
subsequently has come out in the public space and said, as far as he is concerned, as the director of legal, Samuel Koku Anyidoho has not been expelled from the NDC.
I've not heard this. Maybe I mean, respectfully, I haven't. But but the point is,
the point.
Even if he said that,
yes,
on who's, it's one thing speaking for yourself, that personal opinion, versus speaking on behalf of the party, and the official person to do that is the CEO of the party.
Great.
Which is Johnson Asiedu Nketia.
And he said,
right,
that he, Johnson Asiedu Nketia,
right,
has expelled me based on what?
I don't think, even if I remember the phraseology, I can look for that. But he didn't say that he was expelling you, so to speak.
He said
the party, and they mentioned that they cited the grounds. You were bringing the party into disrepute and all of that with your comments, with your actions, continually, that they had tried engaging you and all of that. I mean, all of that was there. So how can it be?
Nobody tried engaging me. I worked for him as his deputy for 4 years.
Right.
I know his modus operandi. And so I wasn't going to fall for it at all. What he loves to do is to provoke.
I see.
Oh yeah, and if you fall for the provocation, that's when he goes back and he will make mockery of you.
When you fall for it, then he bites you. Eh?
So even in that supposed letter of expulsion,
right?
When I saw it somewhere, because nobody has handed over any official letter to me, to date. Oh no, to date, my brother, to date. First of all, nobody invited me for any meeting. Then he says a letter. Now, when I cited that letter, because he put it on social media, even my surname, Anyidoho, was spelled wrongly. Now, knowing Mosquito, assuming I had fallen for the bait, because don't forget that I've been in this party for me to, as we say in the Pidgin Parlance, me to I did. Nobody held my hands into the NDC.
Right.
PNDC, growing up in Burma camp, seeing the revolution, seeing Rawlings, then the NDC joining it. So it is a personal thing. Anyway, so he puts it out, and apparently in that period, 1 or 2 people had been provoked to say they had left the NDC.
On account of your...
No. There was some general turbulence in that space. And so some 2 individuals, for whatever reason, decided that they had opted out of the NDC. For some reason, Asiedu Nketia thought that, let's provoke Koku for him also to walk out of the NDC. And if you listen to me, and I've said consistently, my brother, I have stated every time. That's why today I'm in the colors. I wish Asiedu Nketia could have walked into the studio right now and taken this shirt away from me and say, Maza, why are you in NDC colors? Because it is haram. It's ridiculous. First of all...
No, but that is stretching.
But you see,
even if the party expels you, so to speak, you can still, no one can say, as for donning...
Even legally. That is why, you see, that's why Abraham Amaleba, the lawyer, will come out and come and speak. Because legally, Bernard, you cannot expel anybody from a voluntary organization. And here, in the preamble of the Constitution is there. It is a voluntary political association. So nobody expels anybody from a voluntary association.
Before we go back on the ground.
And then he said, let me come. Then he says that when he was speaking, he said anti-party conduct. Mm-hmm. What is more anti-party, Bernard?
Benjamin, it is.
Sorry, Benjamin, forgive me. So Benjamin, what is more anti-party than using the party's name to go to the Supreme Court and lie to Ghanaians that you had won an election when you had no evidence? And today, it's not Koku Anyidoho who is saying it. Because there's a God who rules in the affairs of men. Johnson Asiedu Nketia has now told the whole Republic of Ghana that he perjured. And perjury is a crime under the criminal code. You went, and I believe in the Bible. So when people hold the Bible and swear, I want to take them seriously. Asiedu Nketia swore on the Bible that he was going to tell the truth, nothing but the truth. Went into that Supreme Court, apparently lied to the Republic of Ghana. 2 years down the line, because he wants to become national chairman and thinks that he can pour debt on Ofosu-Ampofo. Today he's telling us that the party didn't have any pink sheets. So what is more anti-party conduct than that, and anti-Ghanaian? When this constitution says that we must respect the Constitution of the Republic of Ghana.
But to be fair to him, you know that he puts it into context. He has come to accept that tape, not a leak.
He can't, because he can't run away from it.
But the point is, he says that the party had depended on Ofosu Ampofo, citing one of the reasons he's contesting him, to come up with the evidence. And that is how Griffith, the IT director, and all of that come in. And that they had failed. They knew they had some grounds, but Ofosu Ampofo failed to coordinate that, which is why they were empty-handed, so to speak.
Article 26 of the NDC's constitution. This is the general secretary. 25 talks about the national chairman. And let me just, for education purposes. So the national chairman, among others, at any other time, the national chairman is also the leader of the party, especially as we're in opposition now. So we don't have a flag bearer.
Right.
So the national chairman is also the chairman and the leader.
Right.
It started from Obeda Samoa, Dr. Obeda Samoa, Dr. Kwabena J, Mr. Podufi, today Samuel Ofosu Ampofo. So it's nothing new.
Right.
So it's part of. Then the general secretary. B. One of his key functions is for the coordination of party organization and campaigns. So the campaign, every campaign, is coordinated by the general secretary. Is he passing the buck? So if a vice chairman, or for that matter, a director of elections, couldn't get you results, whose fault is it? And I have been deputy before. You see, in 2016, Benjamin, he left the headquarters. That's a Sedin Ketia.
Right.
Saying he was going to vote in Sekwa, his village. That's where his vote is. And I want to grant him that. He arrives in Accra, apparently. I am Deputy General Secretary. I'm at the headquarters in charge of operations. So the whole team is there. We are collating results. General Secretary goes to vote in Sekwa, comes back. Decides not to pass by the headquarters to pick up what the sit rep is in his absence. The next moment, the General Secretary is seen with the President, the Commander-in-Chief, and the flag bearer of the NDC, conceding defeat without informing the party headquarters. Now, we were collating results based on which I came up with a comfortable lead press conference. And in that press conference, I never said we had won the elections. I said based on results collated up until that point. As regards the presidential, His Excellency President John Mahama was in a comfortable lead. That's the point that I made. Now, the General Secretary goes to corner the President, Benjamin, and they concede defeat. Do you know that up to today, nobody in the party knows the basis on which they consider the defeat? Nobody knows what figure. We were collating some figures at headquarters. Fault it all you want, but we were collating results. Now, the flag bearer, the President, and the General Secretary of the party, who is the campaign manager, they go and concede defeat, and they have still not told us the basis on which they consider the defeat. On what figures? That is 2016. Fast forward to 2020, he does the same thing. Now he runs to the Supreme Court. 2 years down the line, he wants to blame everybody. And suddenly, Ofosu Ampofo is MPP. Griffiths is MPP. Koku Anyidoho is MPP. Everybody else is MPP apart from him.
Well, I mean, we'll get into Johnson Esiedun Ketia is not here to.
No, but these are facts.
Well, you say they are facts. He's not here to defend himself. And at the end of the day, we'll find out how the delegates, the 10,936 of them, will vote. Of course, you are not voting today. They are voting. They will determine those members of parliament there, those members of the NEC, and others who are members of the delegates. They are going to be voting today. They will decide in the end. And Johnson Esiedun Ketia very well could be your former party's.
Why do you keep saying former party?
Because I mean, according to the tenor from
who?
From most of the people.
Which people?
We'll get to social media, for example. And some of the reactions.
Those boys on social media, forget about them. Those little boys.
Which little
who have messed up the NDC up until this point? They think they are more NDC than me.
We'll have a conversation. On that. But let's get to the grounds at the Accra Sports Stadium, because we hear the party's chairman, Sami Foto Ofosu Ampofo, has mounted the dais and is speaking currently. Let's catch some of the action.
Congress of our party is significant for a variety of reasons. I will share a few of these reasons with you. We are having a Congress at a time when this country is going through a plethora of excruciating economic, social, and political challenges. For the first time in the history of our dear country, the hard-earned income and investment of hard-working Ghanaians and pensioners are being forcefully subjected to strange haircuts like Topio Joe and Babush. 6 years down memory lane, Ghanaians thought they had voted for the new Patriotic Party MPP to provide economic management that they claimed they alone could deliver. Little did voters know that they had voted for barbers who only knew haircut like Grace Jones and Punk. Now we see the mess they have put us in. They cannot even barber their own president Akufo-Addo properly, leaving him. Now we see the mess they have plunged us into. They cannot even barber their own president Akufo-Addo properly, leaving him with a Sakura head. Fellow Katamansonians, another reason why our Congress is historic is that it is taking place at a time when Ghanaians agree on the monumental catastrophe that the Akufo-Addo Bawumia-led government represents. The teachers are saying the MPP is a catastrophe. Nurses say the MPP is a catastrophe. Truck drivers say the MPP is a catastrophe. Civil servant says catastrophe. The private sector say catastrophe. Aboso Cans Purpose dealers say catastrophe. Traders say catastrophe. Barbers say, bankers say catastrophe. International rating agencies say catastrophe. Civil society organizations say catastrophe. Kaya say catastrophe. Okada riders say catastrophe. Galamseya say catastrophe. The media say catastrophe. Our traditional leaders say catastrophe. University don't say catastrophe. Religious organizations say catastrophe. Labor unions say catastrophe. Doctors say catastrophe. The Black Stars say catastrophe. Even the witches and villagers from Chepi say catastrophe. NPP's Akufo-Addo Bawumia catastrophe sentinel Ajibabia. The NPP catastrophic performance in government has been so repugnant that their own party could not stand the stench of their own rotten government. They started what looked like a cleansing and deodorizing exercise by demanding the sack of Ken Ofori-Atta as finance minister. Now the chief barber, that is the significance of the time in which we are staging a congress of our political party. Political leadership in Ghana has never in our history descended into the abyss in which we find ourselves today. The electorate has lost trust and confidence in the MPP government. The little that was left of trust was blown away when President Akufo-Addo looked Ghanaians in the eyes during one of his Sunday fellow Ghanaians broadcasts on television, national television, and told us that there will be no haircut on our investment. Only for the chief barber, Ofori-Atta, to announce the following week with clippers, scissors, razors, blade in hand, that there will be haircut. And that some haircut will even be with broken bottles. That was what the height of deceit. And that was the height of deceit that any government, any president and government could ever have engaged in, which was made even more hurtful by the fact that it was a very survivor that they were playing their games, our very survivor that they are playing their games with. Distinguished invited guests, fellow Akatamansonians, coming closer home, our Congress today is also historic because it is first following the bold and heroic turnout of our party executive foot soldiers across the country in the 2020 elections. The zest and commitment with which you campaigned in the 2020 elections saw the great NDC almost winning majority of seats in Parliament. The manifestation of that stellar performance of our party executives gathered here is a huge hang parliament that we have, the first in the history of our country. Let nobody steal that hard work and achievement from you with any convoluted narration of related and inevitable events. Your tenacity on the campaign trail in 2020 enabled our indefatigable MPs to find a strong voice for the marginalized masses of our country whose interests we represent. I am proud of your exploits in the 2020 campaign, even as my teacher said, there is room for improvement. I am delighted that as party chairman, I was the conductor of the orchestra with you as the choir that almost snatched Parliament from the president. That was historic. In 2024, we will snatch not only Parliament, but also the presidency from the MPP government, inshallah. Fellow party members, this Congress is also historic by all standards. For the first time in the history of this country and the history of our great party, we have a General Secretary challenging his boss, the party chairman, for the position. We have witnessed the fiercest contest ever for the General Secretary position of the party. The contest for national women organizers was ferocious, and that of the National Youth Organizer was brazenly hot. The embers of that are yet to cool down. The internal contests point to how democracy is beautiful within the NDC. It shows that our internal processes are working. I want our detractors to know that our party still remains strong and will come out of today's elections even stronger. The chairmanship contest between the party chairman and the General Secretary will not destroy the NDC. We are all too strong and too intelligent for that. Let those false political prophets from the opposing side who are predicting Armageddon after today's election be clear in their mind that today will rather mark a renaissance of the great Akatamansonians. Today will mark the beginning of our march towards rescuing Ghana from the wickedness, ineptitude, and catastrophic MPP government. This brings me to the last significance of today's Congress that I will want to talk about. There are many more, though Ghanaians are today looking for an alternative to the catastrophic government that we have. They are looking for political leaders who will place their concerns, anxiety, hopes, and aspirations at the center of government decision. They are looking for leaders who will not direct access and opportunities to their children, brothers, cousins, mamas, and clansmen, and damn all others. Indeed, Ghanaians are looking for a president who listens to them, a president who has no fear of reshuffling a palpably catastrophic group of ministers, a president who will not refuse to sack a disastrous finance minister, even when his own party says so. The only reason why Ken Ofori-Atta is still finance minister is that he is the president's cousin, and he financed the president's campaign to be president. Not because he has any competence to be finance minister. The verdict on this is out there for all of us to see. Even when his cousin is leading Ghana into untold hardship, with his hopeless lack of capacity and capability, he still keeps him at post, and we are still all damned. Ghanaians are looking for leaders who can trust, leaders who can walk the talk, leaders with a heart, who put the country first and all other second. The NDC must seize this opportunity and restore trust in the conduct of national politics. That is the time we are in today. Fellow Akatamansonians, through our actions and decisions, we must signal that the NDC is a party of choice for Ghanaians. The outcome of this Congress should assure our teaming supporters and the army of voters who are disappointed in the MPP government that with the NDC in the driving seat, Ghanaians can look up to the future with a lot more hope and optimism. Let us leave here with a clear message to Ghanaians that we, the NDC, is very responsive to the cry of the people. Why is that? Let us not forget the African proverb which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Party unity in all this is non-negotiable. And that bears our team for this Congress, Uniting for Victory 2024. We need to be united even in the diversity in which we find ourselves. Of course, during elections like the one we will have today, one cannot expect homogeneity. Given the fact that the NDC is a massive party, we cannot all think alike and support the same person. That is just impossible. However, our differences and preferences should end in the declaration of the winners today. The battle we have is a political battle. As a political battle, it's not an internal battle. Those we are in real combat with are the MPP. That is our must-win battle. We shoot ourselves in the foot if we allow our internal elections to take a better part of us and forget that the target is not us. In the current situation which the country finds itself, we will be letting all Ghanaians down if we allow our internal sparks to go beyond today and affect our agenda for 2024 election. I believe I can count on you all to quickly regroup after today, irrespective of how the elections go for you. This is also because, as we have it, our African proverb says, a snake that you can see does not bite. We can see ourselves as NDC members, so we cannot and must not bite one another. I guess what the proverb forgot to add is that a mosquito that you can see can also not bite. Fellow party members, where there is love, there is no darkness. So our elder says, and how true a statement it is, we should focus on our collective good by extension of the good of Ghana. Party politics is relational, and so we should build and strengthen our internal rapprochement. We are made to handle under the great umbrella, for where we will extend succor and solace to Ghanaians everywhere, shielding them from the vagaries of the different types of weather, both current and emerging, and telling every Ghanaian that we are all one, whether you are from Kumasi, Chebi, Keta, or Wale Wale. In conclusion, my task here is a simple one. It is in line with what our forefathers say. If a man does not long a journey, no one says welcome home. He feels like he has no. Fellow delegates, we remain confident that those who are yet to arrive will also arrive safely. Thanks to the Almighty God, all our delegates, I'm told, have arrived safely. May you be blessed at the end of the Congress May you also be blessed to others. Today is just like any other day. We will never happen again. Do not waste it. Our requests, sometimes tries and struggles are exactly what a group like. I wish to thank all of you for your contribution in diverse ways in making the NDC a very strong party, and we came to meet it after we took office in 2028. Once again, I have the singular honor and privilege to declare the 10th Congress of the National Democratic Congress being held in the Accra Sports Stadium here duly open. Thank you and God bless us all.
Thank you very much, the National Chairman, for a long opening statement to Congress. Eyezu, Uyemizu, Uyemiza, Uyemizuza. Thank you very much. Let me recognize in a very special way these 4 constituencies that made us proud. Yes, that's the general. These are constituencies we have been struggling to win, and we made it in 2020. So I want to recognize at this all-important gathering. From Greater Accra, we have Okaikwe North. If you are here, we salute you for the wonders that you did. Tema East, where are you? We salute you for also making it in 2020.
So that was the chairman, at least as of this Congress. Only time will tell whether he will be retained, of the NDC, Ofosu Ampofo, delivering his opening remarks to kickstart the event. And a few things he said. The MPP has been catastrophic. That is what he said. He also said, if you want to go fast, you go alone. If you want to go far, you go together. What did he mean? I'm sure as time goes on and as this delegates conference wears on, we'll find more detail on that. But interestingly, he says, a mosquito you see or a mosquito you can see cannot bite you. I don't know about the empirical evidence behind that, but that is what he had to share with us. Those are some highlights of what the party's chairman had to say. Of course, the delegates, all 10,936 of them, in the end, barring any spoiled ballots, will determine where the leadership of the party, not just the chairmanship position, but all 14 slots will be going. But let's come back into the studio very quickly before we talk about some other matters. Did you find the speech of Ofosu Ampofo inspiring?
Well, yeah, so that we put it back in perspective. So because we are doing a lot of education here. So this is Article 25, National Chairman. The National Chairman shall preside at the National Congress and at each National Executive Committee meeting. And in the absence of the National Chairman, one of the National Vice Chairmen shall preside. So Mr. Ofosu Ampofo has just spoken to our Constitution.
Right.
And so what he has done is in line with the Constitution of the party.
Right.
He's the National Chairman, he's the leader, as I said earlier on, because we don't have a flag bearer. And so he has opened Congress. So Congress is duly opened and is in session.
Was it inspiring for you as someone sitting in the studio and watching?
Well, considering the heat, and he himself speaks to the heat of the Youth and Women's Congress that hasn't, cooled down yet. And of course, the kind of punches that have been thrown at him by the General Secretary, calling him all kinds of names. He's a coward. He's a weakling because he pulled out of the Ayawaso West Wagon by-election. And I think he has spoken as a leader. He hasn't said anything he shouldn't say. He's constantly said that once Congress is over, he believes that the party will will be able to come under the umbrella again. So, if you ask me, he's spoken well. I mean, he hasn't said anything he shouldn't say. He hasn't called anybody names. Of course, it's a political party congress, so you can
see cannot bite you. I mean, these are delicate times because if you later on, much later, I'll bring in the case of John Boadu, for example, from the MPP, and what happened to him and how that political blowout, you know. The tenor of how Ofosu Ampofo is going now, of course, the jabs will come. I'm sure when the General Secretary also has his opportunity, he will do same. We saw him walk in and we saw people do this, those following him and all of that. But do you feel it bodes well for the contest we're about to have? And especially as party chairman, to be throwing such jabs, given the opportunity to open such an event?
Well, he has said prior to this Congress that being chairman of the National Democratic Congress is not about going to war. And it's true, it's not about war. The politics of today shouldn't be about war. If it should be war, it should be war of words and not inciting the youth into the streets to go and kill themselves, as happened in Techiman, only for them to be in the cemetery now and realize that whoever led them or misled them into the streets is now admitting that he didn't have figures. And if I have to add on to what Ofosu Ampofo has said, it says the mosquito you see in the open cannot bite. For me, I would say the mosquito has a short lifespan. It's an insect with a short lifespan. And at some point in time, the mosquito's lifespan shall come to an end.
Let me just do this before we proceed, because the conversation definitely is about the Congress proper.
Yes.
But I'd just like to find out from you, each time you speak, there seems to be some venom with what you just said. I mean, a mosquito has a short lifespan. All of that. Do you feel pained? Do you feel pained? Oh, no, hold on. Hold your breath, Koku. Do you feel pained?
I've held my breath.
By Johnson Esiedun Ketia? Do you have anything personal against him? Do you have anything personal against former President John Dramani Mahama? I've seen, like I said, your social media posts over a long time, years actually. I've been following what you write, and I'll bring up some of them. But do you have any pain in your heart that you can't let go about these two gentlemen?
Listen, Benjamin, so this is chapter 2, the aims and the objectives of the NDC. So I'm answering your question with all due respect. The aims and objectives of the party are A, promote participatory democracy and responsible government in Ghana. Attain political power through democratic and constitutional means to create conditions conducive to ensure national development. Secure the right of each member of society to participate in decision-making in an open and democratic manner, but defer to the majority interest without the sacrifice of minority rights. Ensure the establishment of the rule of law and the right of each citizen or law-abiding person in Ghana to pursue their affairs without unlawful interference, and the right of each person to easy access and equal recourse to the laws of Ghana. So these are the aims and objectives of the party. And I said earlier that my love for the NDC is personal. PNDC Rawlings, growing up in Bema Camp, May 15, 79, June 4th, 79, 31st December, 81. Benjamin, I didn't read those stories in any book. Nobody told me those stories. I lived through those events, for which reason I got attached to the revolution. Of course, if you go back to my political days on campus, then we fought for the restoration of democracy. Fast forward, there's NDC. So it's about me and what I hold dear. And besides, Benjamin, why do people suddenly think that when it comes to Koku Anyidoho, the first law of nature must not apply? That the first law of nature is self-preservation. And that Koku has no right to preserve himself. Everybody else has a right to preserve himself. But as for Koku, he has no right to preserve himself. So to the extent that he's fighting to preserve himself, he loses his 8-year-old daughter. And people close to John Mahama, President John Mahama, say that Koku murdered his daughter for ritual purposes because he hates John Mahama. And he goes to shrines in Benin, Togo, India, to go and perform rituals because he hates John Mahama.
But I thought you said that there are some people on social media that say things.
You've asked me a question. So you've asked me a question. If you permit me. So if I decide to go to court, as we are in court, to seek redress, where does bitterness come into this? That I must be called a murderer, that I murdered my daughter, and it's okay because it's politics. And who says that politics is about immorality? Some of us believe in the politics of morality. This whole business of going to Supreme Court without figures. Why? 2004, same scenario, candidate Mills. The late Jacob Ejebilamte went and announced results at the Castle Gardens. When we thought President Mills should lead us into the streets, what did he say? I will not become president on the drop of blood of any human being. If you go into the streets, you will die. So he's dead, he's gone. Asumdwe Park is left horrible. Koku Anyidoho begs and is done. And so he's bitter. So getting a state monument built is bitterness, huh?
Okay, so let's not get into a number of too many surrounding issues. But the question I'll put to you is, the former president, all of these utterances you say, they did not come from his mouth, did they? So how do you pin them on him?
When you come from the chief's palace, you are insulting everybody in the town, and the chief sits down and says nothing. Why won't the townsfolk say that?
They have said that they don't have to respond to you, that in fact you're not a member of the party, that they are not going to respond to you.
I don't know why.
So if anyone purports to speak on his behalf, who doesn't have that capacity to speak on his behalf, how can you take such a person seriously?
So I've ceased to.
He has an official spokesperson, doesn't he?
So I've ceased to be a Ghanaian, and I have no rights because supposedly I'm not NDC. So I have no rights, right? All my rights are subsumed within the NDC. So if some character says he has sacked Koku from the NDC, Koku ceases to be a Ghanaian. I cannot use any clause in the 1992 Constitution when the party's constitution itself states that it is subservient to the 1992 Constitution of Ghana. I have no rights in Ghana. Even this your program, when Evans called me and the flyer went round, I've seen it. People have sent me comments. That same group of people, there was one of them who was even questioning your programming. He's forgotten about his sordid history in this same institution that threw him out. So that's sordid history.
We're not trying to bring in any other people into this conversation, especially as we don't want to attack any personality.
I'm not attacking any personality.
And maybe
they have rights, but I don't have rights.
Get into legal
dynamics for you
on that.
Yes.
But you still haven't answered my question. Do you have any pain against these people?
No. Last year, November, we went for Congress in Trade Fair. After 2-3 days of vote from the left, vote from the right, vote from the center, whatever happened. Benjamin, I stayed till the very end.
Right.
And the records are there.
On record, officially, Koku Anyidoho has nothing personal against Isiedun Ketia, even after he beat you, and then John Dramani Mahama. You have nothing against him.
Let me give you a little small brief. So 2018 November is over. Whatever they did at Trade Fair happened.
Right.
We entered 2019. Isiedun Ketia called me. Koku, we are going to form a committee to work around nominating our flag bearer. Please, can you come and serve on the committee? Because now we realize that your neutrality, the neutrality that you were preaching, is what is needed so that all the other candidates can warm up to the committee. I said, fine. So I went and served on the committee. The records are there. Kofi Ato chaired that committee. So the committee that elected President Mahama to run again, I was a member of that committee. If I was bitter, the committee would have had records. So we served. But you see, Benjamin, you have to invite me. And so when I come, I'll respect your rules. I won't do anything to hurt your programming and bring your reputation into disrepute. So if I'm no more at the party headquarters, Benjamin, and so the chairman, this same chairman of Oswampofu, the issue about his tape voice recording. So I followed up to show solidarity that Monday morning when he was invited. Issues are popping up, and a media man wants to interview me. I said, Nketia is bold enough to scream. Who is that media man who wants to interview Koku Anyidoho? Don't you know that he's nobody in the party? He has no locus in the party. Okay, so just to answer the question, so I won't go near the headquarters for Secretary to have joy in thinking that he's embarrassing me, I will focus on my Atamils Institute. I will get Asumdwe Park built.
The same institute that is in contention. The party has an institute, and you also have some other institute.
Well, but at least the Atamils Institute.
Which one is a spin-off?
I think it was in the same studio that I had an interview with Evans. Very interesting. And everybody knows the one that existed before the other. And everybody knows Koku Anyidoho has championed this thing. We've gotten a Tamils Asumdwe Park built.
Okay, so I think the bottom line is, the interesting bit is that you say there's no bad blood between you and General Mosquito, no bad blood between you and former President.
Except that what is right and what is wrong is wrong.
All right. You've had quite some interesting takes on General Mosquito. Let me find out about Ofosu Ampofo, who also is actually in contention. In fact, he's the incumbent when it comes to the chairmanship position. Some say he has not lived up to expectation. There are many accusations that have been leveled against him by different members, rank and file of the party. I would want us to go to the Accra Sports Stadium, catch some snippets of what is happening there, and when we return, we'll get into Ofosu Ampofo. Joshua Akamba, together with Seth Tekpe, are having some interactions. Let's get to the stadium and catch those.
But you've just given me a sense of where the conversation needs to move next. Joshua Akamba has just introduced the former finance minister to us, Mr. Seth Tekpe, who's joining us here in our makeshift studio. We're at the Accra Sports Stadium. Mr. Seth Tekpe, welcome to the program. You have been here for quite some time now. How are you feeling? I mean, having to see the reorganization process of your party take shape. Delegates are here waiting in their numbers to be part of the election process. I'm sure you are a delegate as well, and you have your preferred candidates. Are you willing to stick out your neck for any of them?
When it comes, anyway, good afternoon to your viewers,
right.
Listeners, and well-wishers, everywhere. When it comes to the voting, we go a long way with the party, and many are friends, close friends, and whatever. And I tell you, the decision is not easy in all cases, so I just prefer to hold everything to my chest. The important thing for me is what follows after, the elections. And I said earlier in the morning that for me, when you have, experienced people competing in almost all the positions, and then you also have, younger people who are proving themselves to the party, ultimately it will be a win for the party. Because whether the chief falls to the right or to the left, you have an experienced person. And I'm sure that, just as Joshua said, we have a lot of mature people, and they will rally, irrespective of, who wins. Remember that this is not the first, most competitive elections the NDC has gone through, including flag bearership.
Right.
And so I think we'll weather the storm.
What do you feel should be the priority of the NDC once this Delegates Congress, the 10th the National Delegates Congress, is done with?
It's a priority of Ghana today, which is the economy. Let me repeat, it's a priority of Ghana today. And foremost is the economy. Because when you get the economy right, you get development. When you get the economy right, you get social intervention. Right. When you get economy right, you get, private sector, breathing aside. And as much as we are looking ahead to serious challenges ahead, given the situation on the ground today, I can say that the NDC has a record of making many turnarounds, going back to its antecedent, the PNDC. You will recall that as we speak, next weekend, we are going to pay appropriate, homage to one of the stalwarts who turned the economy around with the ERP SAP, programs. My former boss of Tabochu. And it wasn't an easy task.
Because speak close.
Yeah, it wasn't an easy task, but it got done. And in as much as we see checkered moments, it is to the record of that era when some of us were beginning our career, that we had 40 years continuous. Next year will be the 40th anniversary of ERP SAP. Oh. So almost, it was launched in 1983. That we never had negative growth until we almost came close, no matter what the circumstances. Inflation never went. Yes, it could fall in double digits, but it's always been, somewhere around, the...
And that's why I'm grateful that you're joining us, because let's expand that conversation. Your party says they're rallying for victory 2024. But some say it's the beginning of another arduous task for the party, because you would have to deal with the economic challenge. You're saying you have the track record.
Yes, we don't have the track
record to do the turnaround. But many say, well, it may be a difficult time for you.
Well, I think that of course it will be a difficult time. And that's the point I'm making, that even the last Mers Mahama administration faced difficulties, right? Remember the global financial crisis? Fell right in the laps of Professor Mills and its effects on commodities and the rest. Of course, we discharge ourselves with oil revenue. You know what we did with oil revenue that came to help the situation. We had single spine. We had the disruption of gas supply from Nigeria. Of course, the name was coined doing so. A lot of, but I can say for sure that without going through too many numbers, that we left an economy with debt at 57. Today we are crossing 100. We left a deficit at 6.1. It wasn't 8.3, it was 10.3, 6.1. Today, we are in an economy which was ending at 13-15%. Inflation, yes. After Dr. Dufour, yes, conditions did not permit single digits. We hate it. But it was, just above 10%. Today, we hit 50%, right? And despite 3 oil fields, despite $6 billion US, Ghana cedis, flowing into the economy between 2020 and 2021, despite huge amounts of borrowing, so I think the track record is there.
The government.
So that is the point I want to.
But the government has just reached a staff level agreement with the IMF. I would want us to have that discussion, but let's briefly listen to the incumbent General Secretary of your party as he speaks. He's also running for chairmanship position. Then I'll come back in studio with the Honorable Secretary.
Definitely.
And we'll wrap up with that leg of the conversation on the economy. So we now listen to Johnson Asiedu Nketia briefly. We'll get back shortly.
Let me stand by the earlier protocols established by my comrade and friend, the National Chairman. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 10th National Delegates Congress. I wish to use this occasion to congratulate you all for your victory in the just ended constituency, regional, and national youth and women conferences. It is my hope that you will constitute a formidable team that will work seamlessly to enable the NDC recapture power from this inept, clueless, corrupt, and incompetent MPP government. As you are aware, of the current national executives of our party will end in a jiffy, as our 4-year term mandate is exhausted. Since the last Congress, however, many notable comrades of the party, among others, have passed on. Key among them is the founding father of this party, His Excellency, former President, Flight Lieutenant Jerry John Rawlings. Other departed party faithfuls include Comrade Ama Benyuado, Captain Kojo Chikata, Dr. Nyama Donko, Jifa Ativo, Professor Kwesi Boche, and many others, which time will not permit me to mention individually. At the appropriate time, when the former president mounts the podium, he would entreat of you to observe some silence in commemoration of these gallant warriors. Notable events that have occurred during the period under report include the presidential and parliamentary primaries of our great party. We had very successful presidential and parliamentary primaries prior to the 2020 elections. And for the first time in the history of our party, we had 7 stalwarts contesting the presidential primaries. The good news, the party was robust and put measures to ensure that the tensions normally characterize presidential primaries, especially one with this large number of aspirants and their supporters, were reduced to the barest minimum. Fast forward to 2020. We had a general election that was historic by all. Firstly, the 2 major political parties, NDC and PP, split the seats in Parliament down with 137 seats each, giving the its first hung Parliament. Secondly, and against all odds, the NDC annexed the Speakership of Parliament, a feat very rare in contemporary African politics. Thirdly, Ghana experienced the most bizarre elections since the inception of the Fourth Republic in 1993. In the 2020 general elections, the NDC faced a blatantly partisan umpire, the Electoral Commission. As it wasn't enough, we had a judiciary that through common sense, facts and logic and caution to the wind, and consequently denied the people of Ghana the opportunity to hold the chairperson of the Electoral Commission to account for her stewardship as the sole returning officer of the presidential elections. Fourthly, and not the least of all, Ghana witnessed the most violent elections, reminiscent of other violent elections in countries like Kenya, Egypt, Sudan, and elsewhere. Several lives were lost, with many more also maimed. But for the grace of God, the situation in the immediate aftermath of the 2020 elections could have degenerated into civil strife and dissension. To show to Ghanaians and the entire world the irregularities and infractions with the 2020 general elections, deliberately orchestrated by the Electoral Commission with the connivance of the New Patriotic Party, our party went to the Supreme Court to challenge the presidential results. We lost the case in the Judicial Court, but won in the Court of Public Opinion. The NDC, dissatisfied with the activities of the Electoral Commission, decided to the IPAC meetings, which have been reduced to a mere rubber stamping of decisions that have been taken already by the Electoral Commission. The party subsequently proposed electoral reforms to the Electoral Commission, the discussion, adoption of which would form the basis of our return to the IPAC meetings. Unfortunately, the Electoral Commission treated this proposal and remained adamant and intransigent. Organizations including the National Peace Council and the diplomatic community have been holding with the EC to address the issues raised by NDC to enable its return to IPAC meetings. But so far, all of these efforts have fallen into the deaf ears of the Commission. In the belief that the 2020 elections were rigged and to prevent same from happening in subsequent elections, the party organized a series of retreats for regional and national executives as well as the minority caucus in Parliament, culminating in the retreat at the Serene Volta Hotel in the Volta region. The occasion, which was well attended, allowed each regional executive committee to give account of the elections they supervised in their respective regions. There were so many revelations and confirmation of issues that the party already knew of. These helped and will continue to help the party in its subsequent orientation and training programs for its executives at all levels of the party. Indeed, our outreach programs held in the various regions were partly as a result of feedback gathered from these retreats. As part of its reorganization program, the party organized outreach programs in the various regions, whose outcome largely helped in the drafting of guidelines for the party's reorganizational roadmap. Internal elections. In preparation towards the next general elections in 2024, the party organized largely successful elections at the various levels of our party. And I wish to report that for the first time in the history of this party, deployment of personnel from the national level and also from the top levels of regions sent to branches to reorganize the very base of the NDC party, the branch level. Again, since this party has considered Ashanti and Eastern region as the difficult areas of the party in terms of our elections, we gave special attention to this reorganization in the two regions. We had to deploy officers from all over the country and national level to descend in Ashanti and Eastern region to the base of the party and help install the branches of the party, which will position us to win the next elections. Mr. Chairman, comrades, ladies and gentlemen, let me use this opportunity to commend our caucus in Parliament for a very laborious and tremendous. Our caucus has so far acquitted itself creditably through its various press conferences and contributions in Parliament. Our caucus has exposed and continues to expose the NPP's ineptitude, corruption, and mismanagement of the economy, which has led to our current hardship and predicament. Finally, comrades, I wish to take this opportunity to formally inform Congress that the NDC has chalked another great feat of global significance. As you are all aware, I have been a Vice President of Socialist International for the past 6 years. The Secretary General's position of the SI was due for re-election this year. NDC presented a young, vibrant, motivated, and talented lawyer and party activist, Comrade Benedicta Lassie, as a candidate for the position. The party mounted a vigorous lobby and campaign for this young lady, which eventually landed her the position of Secretary General of the Socialist International. This makes her the first African to occupy that prestigious position, the first female to occupy that prestigious position, and the youngest Secretary General of Socialist International over a century's existence. Ladies and gentlemen, put up applause for Comrade Benedicta Lassie. In sum, the NDC has made a lot of progress over the last 4 years, and I am optimistic that we are poised to win the 2024 general elections. But we cannot win the 2024 general elections with a divided front. I would therefore plead with all party members, especially aspirants and their supporters, to make a conscious effort to shun all activities and conducts that have a potential to break our front, and to embrace the ingredients of peace, unity, solidarity, and stability. I thank you all for your attention, and may God bless our homeland, Ghana. Long live the National Democratic Congress, and long live Mother Ghana. Hey! 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 Thank you very much. Finally, let me say a word of farewell to you as I step down today as your General Secretary, having served in that position for the past 17 years. I want to thank you for your cooperation, and I want to thank everybody. Those who have offended, may the Lord touch your heart to forgive me. The credit I have made so far is shared and attributed to the foot soldiers of this country and this party. I thank you all. May God bless you all. Thank you.
17 years of...
And that, or those were scenes from the Accra Sports Stadium. The General himself, General Mosquito Johnson, General Secretary of the party, vying for the chairmanship slot, dressed in battle garb, battle ready, so to speak, also addressing the delegates there, the party across the country. And some interesting remarks he had. He said that the party had performed creditably, making itself a viable party to take over the reins of office in 2024. He spoke about the ineptitude of the NPP in administering the affairs of the country. And to cap it all off, as a leader would, he said that if he had offended anybody, the party should heal wounds. So this is what we're going to do as we come into the studio with Koku Anyidoho. Because I did this after Ofosu Ampofo, the party chairman, spoke, I'm going to do this with you briefly, Koku, on the speech delivered by Esiedun Ketia. Then we'll talk about Ofosu Ampofo briefly, that, those two giants for the chairmanship slot. And then we'll also take a look at some of the other contenders, the positions available. Quick thoughts on the delivery, the speech by Esiedun Ketia. Very quick thoughts.
Well, he has to speak as General Secretary, so he's spoken. Obviously, he sounds quite measured. Yeah, unlike on the campaign trail and all the things that he said. And it's instructive. I've been around for a while, and I've never heard him apologize at any Congress. But
so we just heard him sound very reconciliatory.
Well, he says he's stepping, well, not that he says, actually, he is stepping down as General Secretary after 17, 18 years. So he says he apologizes. Well, I'm sure those who are offended have heard. But, so he's spoken. But I, having worked as his deputy, I also know that one of the key things that a General Secretary does at Congresses is to speak to party finances. I mean, we just recently had some launch of everybody, Yibima, 10 cities to launch the Congress, right, or whatever it is. But I didn't hear anything to do with finances.
It's not too soon to expect him to be saying anything about that.
It's part of,
this is a drive that just started.
It's part of you are a CEO and you are at Congress. Congress is the highest decision-making body. After Congress comes neck comes FEC. And so at a major Congress like this, one would expect that you speak to
But today is about the Congress. It's about the new leadership of the party. No. It's about the direction the party will adopt going into election.
That is why this is part one. Part one takes care of all these things and all this administrative stuff before you now go into voting. So they are in two bits, and in this part, that's what. But anyway, won't say much. But all I'm saying is that I'm doing an analysis from a point of knowledge. But otherwise, well, Litu has spoken. For example, who spoke, he spoke. Of course, he also talks to the issue of the need for party unity post-Congress, and which is also okay and good. So let's see how post-Congress shall be when it's all over.
And we'll come to that. Because we have to go back to the studio there, Blessed Suga interacting with Seth Tekbe. After that, we'll have a piece of Ofosu Ampofo and move the conversation forward. Blessed takes it over from here, speaking to Seth Tekbe.
After his successful introduction to the IMF, only to be called back, by Professor Mills, to work with whom I had worked. Again. So yes, so I have fond memories, of both His Excellency Rollins, Dr. Butcher directly, and some of the people who were mentioned. I've known all of them firsthand. I work with Honorable Nuama as Eastern Regional, Minister and the Commerce. So yeah. So it's really fun.
And in fact, you're just telling us how long you've been around working in the interests of the party and also the nation to try and keep our economy on track. Because right from the days of trying to get VAT rights, then you scaled up, became Minister of State. Of course, you were charged with the responsibility.
And by the way, I worked under Dr. Dufo at the time.
Of course.
Who was a deputy governor.
Indeed. And so it's been a long journey for you. You've watched our economy go through the ups and downs. Here we are today, and we're just talking about what we left off from, the staff level agreement that we have reached with the International Monetary Fund. You know too well the workings of the IMF. At this point, do you have any doubts that we may or may not secure the deal?
I just have a caution that what we have is a conditional SLA. It's a conditional SLA. Because if you read the text carefully, the fund was very careful in stating 2 paragraphs, out of which I pick.
All right.
One, it says that the SLA is subject to approval by the management and the board of the IMF. And that itself is conditioned on we reaching a debt restructuring agreement. And we just started a journey for a domestic debt restructuring.
Yeah.
And after that, we would have to move to external debt restructuring. Second, it made a point that even when the management has accepted, and has approved the SLA, the effectiveness of the debt sustainability agreement that we reach with creditors will be a major factor or another condition for the board approving the agreement. And so I think
conditions.
Exactly. So I do, in saying that, let me also say that one fact is clear. You'll recall that when the situation became clearer for Ghanaians with the downgrades, despite $6 billion of COVID assistance to Ghana, and despite $2 billion of sovereign bond in 2020, another $2 billion before we couldn't go to the markets again. We couldn't turn around the economy. Those are huge sums of money, $8 billion. It tells you that the caution at the time that Ghana should go for a debt suspension agreement under the auspices of the World Bank, the IMF, who were discharging on behalf of the G20. That was timely.
But we failed to take advantage of
we
that.
failed to take advantage. Why am I pointing out to this?
Yeah.
Despite the promises, despite what we have been told, we should remember that we are now doing the same debt restructuring, because the debt suspension is a form of restructuring. And probably we wouldn't have come this far down had we heeded to that.
And that's why I want to pick up your thoughts on the debt exchange program itself. Government is extending the deadline to the 30th of this month. But looking at the arrangement, government says it's voluntary. The Attorney General is warning against any form of revision that may take retrospective effect.
Absolutely, yes.
What's your impression of how the Finance Minister is approaching the domestic debt exchange program?
No, let's talk about the policy.
Yeah,
I don't want it to look like a banter between ministers. So the policy is to restructure the domestic debt, which is what will be, helpful in getting an IMF program. So I think what I want to state about that is to heed President Mahama's call for a wider discussion of the issue. You remember the bankers, some of them are saying, we've just seen this. Pension funds are saying, we've just seen this. The consultation was a bit, weak. And in comparison, you will recall that it took us 3 months behind the scenes to do the ESLA Volta River Authority debt restructuring. It took us almost 4 to 5 months and into the 2015 IMF program to get the facility which was guaranteed by the World Bank. In 2015, $1 billion, which we used the entire amount to do a restructuring of the domestic debt that we started issuing to settle the debt overrun, the wage overrun coming out of, the single span.
So
right?
what's the fear? Do you
So
fear
the point
this
I'm
may
making,
fail?
yes, that it is an exercise that can take long. And in fact, the evidence from the countries that have done the debt suspension, remember the announcement is that, which you quoted, is that we are going to move to the end of the year with the debt restructuring. That was the deadline that the same ministry gave for us to have reached staff level agreement. We have the conditional one. So it means acceptance of the conditional one is going to go into next year. And we are still talking domestic. And this is why I raise a caution
Are you
that the
scared
euphoria,
the engagements may not go well if
No, we have to get it right.
Right.
I don't even want to anticipate that it shouldn't go well. I'm not here to wish the government ill. No, I'm only pointing to, what
needs to be done.
Yes, and the euphoria around the fact that we had reached the suspension. I'm only saying it's a conditional one, and we have to meet the external, and then we can, before we move to go back to the fund with a package which they will, examine. Remember also that by giving us, in principle, 3 billion, and the World Bank coming in with some budget support and the rest, these institutions that are helping us are also now having an exposure to our debt, in addition to past debt, and so they are part of the scheme. And the important thing about the articles of association of the fund is that any loan they give should be under sustainable conditions. And we have had countries like Sri Lanka and others who have been engaging the fund with debt suspension. So I only want to note, that the course ahead, there are still some hurdles to clear. And I wish I could clear, because if you wish the government ill, the economy is going to go down further. And I would only hope that it can be expedited so that we can reach the fund agreement and then get the relief that we need.
And as we speak, deferment on interest payments for the whole of next year, and some more raft of measures that the Finance Ministry is adopting as part of the IMF conditionalities. Do you fear that the next government may not have fiscal space to operate?
We don't have the fiscal space already anyway. Wages, and we have no wages and salary, and interest payment, not principal repayments. It's taking all of revenue.
Right.
And remember, it is gross revenue we are talking about, which means gross revenue before earmarks are given out, before statutory funds are given out, before others, and so we do not even have the fiscal space. And I think for me, the clarion call is to start paying attention seriously to expenditure, the size of government and others, because the trajectory shows that the deficit is not going down. Well, of course, eventually we'll get the prior actions. What we are talking about in terms of the debt, restructuring is a prior action. We'll know the pieces, the conditions, and then we'll know the structural benchmarks, when eventually the document which is under wraps, come out.
Okay.
And so that is the situation. Right. I'm only trying to paint a realistic position.
So Ghanaians can follow the conversation.
Yes, the conversation.
Be it as it may, the signs of some of the macroeconomic indicators appear to be working in our favor now. And we're big on the currency, the Ghana cedi, when it wasn't performing as expected. We went all the way up to 15 cedis for $1. And now what we see is what the finance minister calls a miracle. We seem to be seeing some level of appreciation of the currency. Do you see this continuing?
That is welcome
for the coming months.
Well, that is welcome news. Okay, let me say that it's welcome news. But before I go to your question, does it therefore show that 2 years ago, up to the time we went to the fund program, one of the things that was being pointed out was that our own policies were not credible enough for the markets. Right?
Yeah.
But we kept saying that we can swim it out.
Homegrown.
Right?
Yeah.
So yes, it's a positive, but does it also prove that the staff-level agreement may have contributed to this? And it could have contributed to this under the suspension and other environment much earlier, right? Secondly, we should again be cautious. I am not for, miracles do happen, but in managing the economy, downturns are also miracles, but they are only downturns. Because currently the dollar is weak. The dollar was strong, which was one of the reasons, the city was taking a beating. The dollar has started to weaken, right? And so in comparison with the city, you see a stronger city.
Simply because of how the dollar
Precisely.
is performing. Right.
Secondly, Europe and others are finding solutions to the oil situation that was moving the oil prices up, which has also tumbled. Not really down, but $70 from over 100 is significant.
Right.
Right? We import crude oil. We import, finished products. It means that we are spending less of forex, which is why the local market, and I would hope that it will benefit inflation as it should. Okay, that's another factor.
Right.
So you can see that there are external factors, right? But we should also note.
So we've been hearing from former Finance Minister Seth Terkper, but it's important, it's crucial at these delegates' congresses that they get goodwill messages. And guess what? The New Patriotic Party has its turn now, and it is delivering its own goodwill message at the grounds of the sports stadium.